everybody! It's time for a little freezer cleanup. So today I'm going to show you how to put a bunch of these meats that I've been showing you how to make to some good use in one of my favorite Sunday dinners. It's an Alsatian meat lover's feast. I'm making this massively meaty Choucroute Garnie that everyone's gonna love. So let's get started. Now let's take a look at the ingredients for this highfalutin sauerkraut and sausage. And this is an Alsatian dish, and Alsace is a little place sandwiched right between Germany and France. So there's going to be some of those influences in the food there. And the name Choucroute Garnie, I believe, translates to dressed up sauerkraut. So of course we've got to have some sauerkraut in this recipe. And if you make your own, that's even better. But this is a great place where you can use the stuff from a jar or a can. Just drain off all that liquid. And we are going to be dressing this sauerkraut up with all types of meat. All types of cured meats. Some of these I've made here and you can see the recipes on the channel. Others, like these smoked pork shanks, I got at the grocery store. And this is a recipe where you can throw in all types of different sausages and meats. Cured and smoked sausages, fresh sausages, but what I have here today are these smoked ham shanks. I've got some smoked wild turkey and apple sausage. This is some turkey Thanksgiving sausage that I made. We've got some venison kielbasa links, and this is a piece of pork loin that I just put a quick cure on. I just mixed 50-50 salt and sugar and packed this thing overnight. So that is slightly cured, but not smoked, but we're gonna pick up a lot of smoky flavors from everything else in here. And this is not a formula. You can use all different types of smoked sausages, fresh sausages, different cuts of meat. I like to put pork shoulder in here sometime. Some big old hunks of ham in there will be good. It's really one that you can empty out the freezer with. In addition to these meats, I've also got some nice smoky bacon here to get the base going. And this is not a recipe where you're gonna have to measure everything precisely. This is a real throw it together how you like it recipe. And I like mine with quite a bit of onion, so I'm gonna use a couple medium onions in this today. And then our flavoring herbs and spices. I've got fresh rosemary, fresh thyme, a fresh bay leaf, sort of fresh frozen bay leaf. If you're using those dried bay leaves in a jar, double, triple up. They don't have a lot of flavor, so you can go crazy with them. Got some fresh garlic here, and I got whole peppercorns and whole juniper berries. And we're gonna need some liquid, so I've got a little bit of chicken stock, and that's always gonna be the low salt chicken stock because I like to be able to adjust that saltiness. And in this recipe, I probably won't need any salt because all these other ingredients are plenty salty. And we're gonna use some white wine. Nothing too dry, nothing too sweet. I like something kind of right in the middle there. And it doesn't have to be your fancy wine. Just make sure you at least like the taste of it because you're probably gonna finish that bottle after you cook this. Alternatively, a nice beer will work very, very well in here. And if you don't want to use wine or beer, just add in a little more of that chicken stock. So now I'm gonna do just a little bit of prep work and then we will start to build this dish. I'm going to get started by making a little bouquet garni. And that is a fancy way of saying tying up all your loose herbs so it makes it easier to pick the stems out when you're done cooking. And so you just make a bundle of your herbs and tie those up with some cooking twine. Very, very easy to do. Now, if you want to be real fancy pants about your bouquet garni, then you take it, put it in some cheesecloth. I'll add in those juniper berries and the black peppercorns. You know, you make a little satchel, tie that off, and then you've only got the one big lump of stuff to pull out of your stew, and it keeps all the stems and leaves out of there. Both of these things, optional. If you don't mind picking the stems out one by one, and if you want whole juniper berries and whole peppercorns floating around in there, you don't have to do this at all. Now I think all I need to do is slice up my onions and we're good to go. I'll go ahead and cut up this garlic as well. Just need a rough chop on the garlic because this is going to cook for a while. Now let's start putting this meat menagerie together. And let me apologize in advance because this cooktop is very loud, so it's not going to be the most soothing audio. But we're going to get started by crisping up some bacon, and I want to cook this around medium heat and hopefully get some crustiness going on the bottom of the pan here. There's that crust that we're looking for. That is flavor. And this pot is far too large for this cooktop, so that crust is right there in the center where it's hottest. And I don't need to take this all the way to crisp either. Just want to render it down and build up some of that crust. If that stuff starts to get too dark, you can scrape it up, mix it in, or just move on to the next step. Don't want to burn that stuff. Then the flavor is going to be off. We're looking pretty good here. If you've got too much grease in there, you can take some of it out. Although, I don't think that's something that we're really that worried about with this recipe. Oh, now we want to deglaze the pan, get that crust up and mixed into the flavor. So we're going to get our onions and garlic in there. And once the moisture starts to come out of these, it's going to lift that crusty goodness off of the bottom of the pan.
It's called fond, you idiot.
And I don't want to cook these too high, so I'm going to drop the heat down just a little bit. Maybe like a medium-low. And I'm going to cook these onions down a little longer than I do a lot of times. Beyond just translucent, I want them to start getting a little bit of color on them. I failed to turn the camera on, but I just got the wine in there. The onions had some nice gold color to them. And I didn't measure that wine, just several glugs, but probably about a cup and a half in case you're wondering. And I'm going to turn the heat up to medium-high, and we're going to cook that wine down, reduce it by about half probably. And again, if you want to use beer instead of wine, that is a fantastic option. Now my wine is cooked down, so I've got a good base of flavor here. And at this point, you can really just throw everything in there, cover it up, and let that simmer until everything's nice and tender. But I like to build mine in stages so I get different flavors and textures out of all the meats. If I put the sausage in too early, a lot of the flavor leaches out and everything tastes fine, but the sausage itself is kind of lackluster. So I go in stages depending on how long each meat's going to take to cook. And these pork shanks are going to take quite a while to get tender, at least an hour. So they're the first thing I'm going to put in there. Then we'll get in there with the sauerkraut. Don't forget that bouquet goes down in there. And now I'm going to add in some of that chicken stock. Not a ton. This isn't like a soup. Just want to kind of bring that up to where I can see it bubbling through the top of the sauerkraut. Now once this gets nice and hot, you can bring that down to a simmer and cover that up. And I'm going to give those shanks probably a 30-minute head start before I get the next meat in there. I just want to check this a little bit here and there to make sure the liquid hasn't evaporated out of there, and if it gets too low, I'll just add in a little bit of water or a little bit more chicken stock. Alright, those are just starting to soften up a little bit after 30 minutes. So I'll give this a stir, and then we'll get the next meat in there. And that is going to be my pork loin. And this is raw. It has been lightly cured, like I said, just overnight, packed in 50/50 salt and sugar. That's going to take the next longest to cook. So we're going to get that right in there. Top that with just a little bit more of that chicken stock. And if you've only got fresh pork loin, go ahead and use that. It's going to be just fine. Or if you've got some smoked pork loin, which I do have a recipe for on the channel, that is going to be the apex ingredient for the loin. So we'll continue to let this simmer probably another 30 minutes or so, and then the final thing we'll get in there is the sausage and those little potatoes. Oh yeah, now this is starting to get nice and tender. Not quite where I want it to be yet, so it's perfect timing to get the rest of our meats in there. The pork loin is now cooked through, but it's going to take a little more time to tenderize. So, let's get these sausages in there. And you can cut your sausages. You can leave them whole. It's completely up to you. I'm just going to see how many I can get into this pan. I can get that bone out of there. Alrighty. And the potatoes. And sometimes I leave the potatoes out and I cook some nice big puffy dumplings on top of this. Don't think that's traditional at all, but I sure like it. One last simmer again. We'll cover this up, give it about 30 minutes, and then we should be good to go. Take a look at that meat mountain. Oh yeah. I want to sample just these brothy juices first. Ooh. That is rich and full of flavor. It's got a lot of smokiness from all those meats and a nice bright pop from the sauerkraut and those herbs and spices. This is definitely worthy of a nice crusty bread to soak up all that juice, or a nice fluffy buttery dumpling like I was talking about earlier. But I am watching my figure. Now let's go in for the whole shebang. Let's see here how much of this I can actually fit into one bite. A little of this, a little of that. Check out that bite. Woo. Let's get a little of that potato. Oh yeah. Rich, savory, salty goodness. So hearty. It's similar in ways to its sweeter Polish cousin Bigos, but not similar enough that you couldn't make both dishes back to back. I'll have to do that recipe as well. Let's try this guy. This is actually a turkey Thanksgiving sausage with stuffing and cranberry in the mix. It's a good match. The first time I saw this dish was way back in the day when Emerald made it on the old Emerald Live show. Man, that was a good show with that live band and the guests to try the food. And Emerald is just such a big and boisterous personality. I love that show. And as a meat lover, when he made this dish, I thought, I have got to try that immediately. And I've been making it ever since. And then once I started curing my own meats, it elevated the dish even higher. It's great stuff, one of my all-time favorite cold weather Sunday meals. So, if you've got some freezer cleaning to do, give this one a try, and I know you're gonna love it. Thanks for watching.